spike increase of $2.61.
2 days.
We saw a spike increase of $2.61.
2 days. That's how long it took for Governor Gavin Newsom's refinery regulations to blow up in his face.
That absolutely concerns people in Nevada and in Arizona.
On October 14, 2024, Newsom signed ABX 21 into law, dismissing warnings from Arizona and Nevada as, quote, big oil talking points.
Only concerns, and understandably so, because the impacts on those gas price spikes here in California impact their taxpayers directly.
48 hours later, Phillips 66 announced it was shutting down its Los Angeles refinery for good. Then Valero followed. Combined, these closures eliminate 17% of California's refining capacity. Analysts are now projecting gas prices could hit $6 to $8 per gallon, and the governors who warned this would happen are watching it unfold in real time. Here's why this matters to you right now. If you live in Arizona, Nevada, or anywhere on the West Coast, California's policies just became your problem, whether you voted for them or not. Nevada gets 88% of its gasoline from California refineries through pipelines. Arizona gets roughly 33%. The Reno market relies on California for 100% of its fuel supply. When California loses 17% of its refining capacity, that shortage doesn't stop at state lines. California drivers already pay $1.50 more per gallon than the national average. Arizona sits around $3.04. The national average hovers near $2.85. That gap is about to get a lot wider. On September 10, 2024, something unusual happened. Arizona Governor Katie Hobbs, a Democrat, and Nevada Governor Joe Lombardo, a Republican, sent a joint letter to Governor Newsom, urging him to halt his refinery legislation. A Democrat and a Republican united against a fellow Democratic governor's policy. Governor Hobbs stated publicly, quote, Arizonans are struggling with the high cost of living. We can't afford yet another price hike. I urge Governor Newsom and the California legislature to reconsider this legislation that could slash Arizona's gasoline supply, raise prices at the pump, and threaten Arizona's strong economic growth. Governor Lombardo added, quote, the people of Nevada and Arizona should not have to foot the bill for California's misguided policies, especially when it comes to higher gas prices. Their argument wasn't speculation. They cited California's own analysis. The California Energy Commission explicitly stated that the legislation, quote, may artificially create shortages in downstream markets, which would raise costs for consumers in Arizona and Nevada. California's own regulators admitted the risk, in writing. Newsom's response came within hours. His office fired back on social media, claiming, quote, allowing big oil to gouge Californians at the pump to pad their profits is not an option. Our proposal will save consumers, including those in Arizona and Nevada, hundreds of millions of dollars every year. 3 days later, Newsom sent a formal letter accusing Hobbs and Lombardo of repeating, quote, the oil industry's talking points rather than the facts. His deputy communications director went further, calling the bipartisan warning, quote, a stunt to appease Governor Lombardo's big oil donors, who contributed tens of thousands of dollars to his campaign. He's parroting their talking points. On October 14th, Newsom's...
We saw a spike.
If you can't figure it out by now, Democrats, including Gavin Newsom, hate your guts. They want you poor. They don't want you to have anything. They want you to struggle. They want you completely dependent upon the state. Also, because this is a globalist agenda, they don't want you to have cars in California. So what they want to do is they want to price you out of owning a car. They're now removing parking spaces from apartment buildings where people live, and they're turning those into housing. So they're building housing in the parking lots. Soon, even if you have a car, there's going to be nowhere for you to park it. And it's going to cost you, like right now, when I lived in downtown LA, I was paying $250 for a parking spot in a parking garage because my $3,000 a month loft did not come with parking. That is now already $350 a month. I can see it in the next 2 years being $450, maybe $500 per month just to park a car. And then if you're in California, your insurance premiums are double what they are in other states. And then your car payment. And in California, they put your license and registration. It's just going to become way too expensive. You're going to be using public transportation or walking. That is the whole agenda with the 15-minute cities. That's why they torched all of Malibu and the coast. and in Altadena, they burnt it all down, and they're going to rebuild these smart cities, and they're going to put everybody on a central grid of electricity, which our current grid cannot handle. And then one day it's going to be lights out for good. Because once those systems die in California, there's going to be no rebuilding them. Right now, with electric cars and everyone just using the grid, our grids are over capacity by at least 40%. It's over 150 years old. We have no idea. There's no way to modernize it or repair it because you'd have to shut it down for a while and rebuild it. How do you get the public to accept that you have to shut down the power grid for a month? They won't. And trying to rebuild it section by section, apparently it's not feasible, according to the people that are in charge of creating these systems. This is all part of the globalist agenda. The thing is, Trump won the election. So one thing you'll notice about these people, there's no reverse button. It's just go. There is no slowdown. There is no reverse. Even though Trump won, and we're getting rid of the green new scam, you're finding out that even though you're an electric car, your electric car still runs off of oil, because where does electricity come from? Turbines. And what powers turbines? Oil, gas, nuclear if they want to. There is no system where sun, wind, water, heart, and all the other shit Captain Planet used to lie to us about. There's no system where that's going to replace oil, not for our needs. It's just not going to happen. And it doesn't need to happen. We're finding out that everything's a scam. Pollution, recycling, all of it is just all a bunch of BS. Everything was just to scare you into giving over more money. Remember they told us there was a hole in the ozone layer? Then there is no ozone layer. Then everything we're finding out is that everything. You think the Somalians are the only scammers here? Who taught the Somalians? You think they were just sitting over there playing with their sandals and just figured out, oh, Eureka, we just cracked the American code? No, there are Americans that are here, and they're using them as patsies for this another scam. Apparently this whole country is just a big Ponzi scheme, a big scam on top of a scam, and then they're just robbing Peter to pay Paul, and it's a monster pyramid scheme. And we don't know where it ends. We really don't know where it begins either. So we're just in it, and we're here. Gavin Newsom's been destroying California for years. That's why I left. And we had hope. We had a recall that was put in place, but no, unfortunately, the black and gay residents of California decided that they'd rather go back into lockdown, hoping Newsom was going to give them a free lockdown check and no bills. And they wanted to live like communists. And Larry Elder wanted to reopen California, and then everyone would go back to work, and they rejected that. And now you got stuck with more Newsom. It didn't have to go this way.
I'm not the dictator.
Well, but will you direct
That's the
CARB?
Postal Commission.
Will you direct CARB then to provide an estimate before that vote?
I think it's important to be, I think you heard exactly what I said. I'll repeat it. I think it's important to be transparent.
Gavin Newsom is a dictator, but he's certainly not a benevolent dictator. So the California Air Resources Board, they regulate the carbon emissions as far as the gasoline that's made here in the state goes. And they're going to vote on a new set of emission standards that, according to their initial estimate, would increase the gas prices by 47 cents a gallon on average. And the new estimate is that it will actually increase the gas prices by 65 cents a gallon. This is insane. And they're going to vote on this proposal only 3 days after the election. Gee, I wonder why they're choosing to wait until after the election, because they don't want Kamala Harris's popularity to decline when the California gas prices spiral out of control, because these 5 Newsom appointees decide that they want to increase the gas prices to help us with climate change.
There is no such thing as climate change because of humans. And I guess Kamala Harris is trying to run for the governor of the state, which is another joke in itself. And then Gavin Newsom wants to run for president. If you just lived in California and understood how mismanaged it was, and the only thing, and the reason why nobody says anything about it is because he virtue signals for blacks and gays. That's it. He turns, just like these other states, they'll turn a blind eye to crime, a blind eye to grooming of children. He even called for more grooming of children. He wants to see more damaged trans kids. Do you know what that means if you have a kid that calls themselves trans? Do you know that that's a mental disorder? He wants to see more damaged kids. And everyone's so afraid to say anything against it because you're not allowed to touch those two subjects that they're going to just have to pay for it. I was in California. I'm from California. Leaving the state, you realize everything is a lot cheaper than we thought it was. I'm in Arizona right now, and I'm seeing the gas prices are already going up because they closed a refinery in California. But I cannot wait for 2 more weeks, and then I'm back to Texas. In Texas, I don't have to worry about all these issues. Everything is damn near half price. I'm talking about food, gas, going anywhere, whatever you do. Everything is way cheaper. But it's because we have our own refineries in Texas. Actually, I believe it was Chevron. They just decided to move their operation to Houston. So or Shell, one of these big companies that was based in California, they're going to now be relocating their offices to Houston. They're going to be making that trip. Also, a lot of other, people with money that are going to be hit with that 5% tax, they're out of California. They want everyone gone. California is ground zero for every globalist agenda, from the depopulation by using the vaccine and blackening out the skies with cloud seeding so that thing will grow in you faster, all the way to turning California into the first Hunger Games state. See, in the Hunger Games, that's a result of UBI. If you look at it closely, everyone's given, you get a stipend every month. Say it's $2,000. But over time, that $2,000, you're still going to get the same amount of money, but it's worth less and less. And then eventually $2,000 you get a month will be worth $15. So now you're basically just living off of rations. You're basically living in Cuba. That's how you get to the Hunger Games society, is when you accept UBI and you're no longer independently able to provide for yourself and for your family. You're just living off the state. And that is the ultimate goal of California, because then you can't revolt because you depend on the state for food. See, right now, there's only, the immigrants depend on the state to take care of them. Obviously, we found out through welfare fraud, etc. But there's also a Black community. And then there's more and more people that are electing to just live off the state. Gen Alpha, Gen Z, they don't want to work. They're completely dependent upon the state. Now, conservatives, all we can offer you is a chance for you to go work for yourself. And we promise to just keep the government out of your way. But for those of us who don't want to work, those who want to have elected slavery, well, that's just not as appealing. So now our country is dividing up from those who want to be slaves, where the government takes care of you and, daddy government tells you how much you can eat, when you can eat, how much you make. That's where they get equity from, because they want everyone to be equally poor. Then you have those of us who believe in freedom. Freedom comes with responsibility to yourself. That means we're not leaning on anybody else to feed us or our families. And that divide is starting to grow. But unfortunately, the numbers are starting to grow for those who are willing to embrace slavery. Even though people complain about slavery, they are more than happy to go back into it as long as everyone goes at once. That way, nobody can look down on them and judge them for volunteering to be slaves. That's literally the mental dynamic that I'm watching unfold every day. Sorry, I'm getting over. I was a little under the weather. So this is ground zero. This is California. So this is what he's talking about.
CARB can make whatever rules they'd like without any legislative oversight. These are the bureaucrats that make the big decisions. And now they're going to decide that our gas should have less carbon in it at the cost of the petroleum refineries. And guess what? That's going to raise the gas prices. Anybody?
Yeah, we're in trouble in California.
So you know what Chevron's CEO did before he moved the company out of California? He texted Gavin Newsom. After 145 years in the state, he wanted to give the governor a heads up. Listen to what happened.
It was in the Wall Street Journal when Mike Wirth, the CEO of Chevron, was getting ready to move Chevron out of California, texted him and said, "We're about to make this announcement. I'd like to tell you before you read about it." Gavin Newsom replied, essentially, quote, "I don't need to talk about it. I'm good."
Hey, shout out to Matt Adams. He says he has a channel too. but he doesn't have a profile picture. But yeah, I'll take a visit and check you out. Yeah, no worries. Thanks for stopping in.
Good.
Did you hear that? I'm good. 145 years, $300 billion company, tens of thousands of jobs, and the governor says, I'm good. Now, gas is at $7 in parts of LA, $6.79 right here, and it's about to hit about $10. So I started digging into what the hell is going on.
Even when I was living in LA, where I lived at in downtown, the Chevron up the street, gas was $8.49 a gallon. But then if you go 2 miles up Sunset, it goes down to like, $4.50, $5. But in certain parts of LA, you're getting gas at $8 to $9 a gallon. Even over by the Beverly Center, Alpha La Cienega, $9. So this is crazy. It's going to get worse.
Going on. And what I found out made me sick. 3 refineries are gone. Let me show you what just happened.
Refineries in California are winding down their operations. Phillips 66 in Los Angeles County is set to shut down completely in a few weeks, and Valero in the Bay Area will stop operations in April.
20%. That's not a small adjustment. That's a massacre. And it gets worse. Valero was offered $200 million to stay. Listen to what they said.
Valero in Northern California flat out said, we're out of the state. And they were very upfront about it. They said, we're tired of operating this hostile environment. We're tired of operating under these punitive rules. And by the way, our operating costs across California refineries are on average 35 to 38% higher than anywhere else in the country.
Did you catch that? Hostile environment, punitive rules. $1 billion company would rather lose $1 billion than deal with Sacramento for one more year. Let that sink in. Now, here's where it gets started. There's a professor at USC, Michael Mishke, 50 years studying oil and gas. He spent 14 months researching California gas prices using the state's own data. His conclusion, we're heading to $8, $9, maybe even $10 a gallon. We're already at $7 right now. You know what Newsom said? Listen.
Actually, I want to see the part 2. I think that's right. Is that here? Is this part 2 of this video? That's part 3. Let me see.
So you know what Chevron CEO did?
In 48 hours.
They approved.
I'm not the dictator.
Well,
Where's he at? Where's this guy at? That says part 3.
So you know what Chevron CEO did before he
No,
moved the
that's
company
not-
out of California?
Is this,
So you know what Chevron CEO
it's all the same video over and over again. I wanted to hear what that guy had to say because he seems on the money and he's wearing a Disneyland shirt. I kind of like it.
Within 24 hours of Gavin Newsom claiming that gas prices weren't high, Ron DeSantis decisively took 3 actions that exposed Newsom's lies. First, Ron DeSantis directly compared California's gas prices with the national average, pointing out that drivers in California have been paying significantly more per gallon over the long term. DeSantis emphasized that if gas prices were truly not high, California wouldn't consistently rank among the most expensive states year after year. He even bluntly said that if he and Newsom swapped positions, California's gas prices would immediately drop to the same low levels as in Florida. Next, DeSantis pointed out that California's high gas prices result from high taxes, strict environmental fuel standards, and long-term regulations on the energy industry. He sarcastically remarked that Newsom's approach of blaming everything on the companies is easy and safe, yet deliberately avoids addressing the policy choices that truly drive up costs. He even joked, "It's obvious that I'm doing a much better job than Newsom." Additionally, he emphasized that under similar national energy conditions, gas prices in Florida are noticeably lower, and the reasons are simple: lower taxes, fewer artificial restrictions, and greater respect for market realities. Do you agree with what Ron DeSantis said? Within 24 hours.
We live in the same country. The gas prices in Florida are a quarter of what they are in California. It shouldn't be like this. I'm from California. We have been getting robbed from every angle, everywhere. I remember being like a kid wondering like, why is rent so expensive? Then you find out there's an artificial bubble created by illegal immigrants who populate the state that are not supposed to be there. So it created a supply and demand situation where there was obviously a higher demand, but there was a low supply. So what that did was that created a bubble, and we had to pay for it. And now that we started doing deportations, the rents are just dropping dramatically. I see there's a unit I wanted in downtown that was like 3,200 a year ago. Today, it's like 2,500. And what's the difference? Typically, rent goes up every year. What made the rent go down like $800? Well, it's the fact that all those illegals are no longer there and people are self-deporting. Also, now jobs are coming back to California, but you still have people like Newsom that are in power. Remember, if you're going to vote Democrat, you're voting for the globalist agenda. The globalist agenda is 15-minute cities, no more families, no more children, lockdowns, climate lockdowns, basically ruled by fear, just keeping you suspended in fear. You know what's crazy? Who remembers back when Obama was president, or we used to have the terror threat level on the news? And it'll tell you like today the threat level is orange or red or green. Just something to keep you in fear, keep you afraid. Magically, soon as Trump became president, it all went away. Remember how it was under Biden? As soon as Trump became president, all the fear mongering is just gone. There's nothing trying to keep you in a state of suspense and anxiety. It's all gone. It's all manufactured. It's all media. I remember the terror threat levels. Let me see if I can find that. Let's see if I can find it on terror threat levels. Let's see if that's the thing. Let's see here. We can find it.
This is breaking news just coming out, and you need to share this with everybody. The U.S. military bases in Germany, Italy.
No, I'm talking about it used to be on the news. It used to be on the news.
All right, now here go with this shenanigans. I don't know how true this is, but I received this. Look at this, talking about terror alert. Some of the high cities. Check it out, you guys.
Yeah. Depending on your city, you used to have a different terror alert level. And nothing ever, it was all just BS. It was just all just to keep you in a state of fear. And it's just for control. Unnecessary. And people have the nerve to complain about Trump, but he's the reason why all that stuff stopped. Even this is the first year in recorded history we didn't have a hurricane during hurricane season. And people aren't noticing all this stuff stopped once Trump became president. It's like every agenda is either stopped or slowed down. Every agenda that was against us, the people. You know, we have to be a little bit smarter collectively if we're going to survive this. But I'll be honest, everybody's not going to survive. There's no way. There's no way. And then you got to think about it. The people in California, where are they going to go? They can't leave California. A Californian is really just like an average American, except for them, California is the entire United States. They could not survive in another state. They could never call themselves anything but a Democrat. They can only vote for Democrat. They're not going anywhere. They can cry. They can complain. What? They don't have another option. They don't even have the right to vote Republican. They don't have the right to vote for someone else. They have to do what they're told. They don't have a choice. They don't have the right to vote in California. Why do you think about it? They tell you that the state's a super majority because they accept illegals and illegal voting. But it's not a super majority. You just don't have a choice. So you can always keep power because the people in California are too afraid to do anything different. And they won't. So we're all just going to watch that place just continue to burn. Los Angeles is gone. New York is gone. New York City, the state's there, but New York City just got a new mayor today. You know, all of our big cities are collapsing. I mean, St. Paul, Minnesota, Minneapolis. I mean, these are cities that we've been invaded. Where everything's being dismantled, and there's really not much we can do about it. So our way of fighting back is just to spread awareness, to amplify certain voices, and to talk about it online. And hopefully, eventually, something makes a difference. He's going to make sure that your pockets are destroyed by gas prices and you won't even have a car. And then that means when there's another major emergency, you won't have the option to escape. See, when the lockdowns happened in Los Angeles and I wanted to leave, I was able to pack up my dogs and my girlfriend and my stuff, and I was able to get in my car and get on a freeway and drive to another state. But when you don't have a car anymore, what are you going to do? You're trapped. Share the video, like and subscribe. I'll be back on in about 10 minutes with another video, with another story. Click below on one of these titles, and that way you can come back and see what we're talking about. Remember, America first, America only.
I've been needing to find a new apartment, which has not been easy with credit as bad as mine. Luckily, I found cosigning.com. They connected me with a cosigner who helped me get my dream apartment for me and my dog. I just paid a small fee and was able to move in fast. Get the cosigner you need for the apartment you want. Check out cosigning.com today.